Have you ever wondered if there is a smarter way to save for your first home deposit rather than just sticking your money into a high interest savings account and hoping that it'll all just work out? Did you know that the Australian Tax Office will help you save for your first home deposit by letting you use your superannuation as a tax-effective saving strategy? This strategy is called the First Home Super Saver Scheme. And if you earn more than $60,000, then this strategy could save you $2,000 for every $15,000 you put aside. Now, I've been a financial coach for over 35 years and I've helped over 10,000 families implement their financial roadmap. And I can tell you that this scheme is one of those that most people either don't know about or they think it's way too hard to implement. And that is a huge shame because this strategy, when used properly, will help you save for your home deposit faster and save you a chunk of tax along the way. So in this video, I'm going to take you through what the First Home Super Saver Scheme is. We're going to look at the potential tax savings, and I'm going to use a real life example from a young couple that I worked with just recently. We're then going to look at what are the eligibility criteria. Then I'm going to take you step by step through how to implement, benefit from, and use the First Home Super Saver Scheme. We're going to have a look at some of the common mistakes people make and how you can avoid them. And then we're going to look at an overall case study. And after watching this video, if you would like a copy of my First Home Super Saver cheat sheet and a calculator, then check out the link in the description below. So what is the government First Home Super Saver Scheme? Well, it is a government initiative that allows eligible first home buyers to make additional contributions, voluntary contributions to their superannuation, and then at a later date to apply to withdraw eligible amounts to build or buy their first home. The simplest way to think about this is as if you have a special home deposit account sitting inside your superannuation. Now, it's important to understand here that you can't just pull out all of your superannuation. You can't pull out what your employer has put into superannuation on your behalf. You can only pull out those additional contributions that you have made. So you might be wondering at this point, well, why would I put my money into superannuation? Why is it any better than sticking it into a high interest savings account? Well, there's two very big reasons. The first one is that it is a very tax effective way to save money. And we're going to look at this in more detail in just a moment. The second thing is that the returns you get on the money you've put aside into this scheme will attract an interest rate at the moment. So this is as of March 2026 of 6.61%, which is about 1.5% higher than what you can get in any of the high interest savings accounts. So let's have a look at the tax. And to do this, I'm going to share with you a very quick story of a young couple that came to see me last week. Bree and Sam, these guys are in their mid-20s. They're currently earning between $65,000 and $70,000 a year each. And they're desperately hoping that they can buy their first home at the end of next year. So that'd be the end of 2027. Now, they've been diligently living to a budget. They've been putting money into a high interest savings account. But between the rent that they're paying at the moment, between the increases in cost of living, between the now raises in interest rates and the rising house prices, they're feeling a little bit demoralized that it's all getting away from them. So they came to see me to see, well, is there anything else we can be doing? So that's why we started having a look at the First Home Super Saver Scheme. Now, right now, they're earning $65,000 to $70,000, which means that on every dollar they're earning over $45,000, they're paying 30% in income tax and 2% in Medicare levy. And this is where the real magic comes in, because if they take a chunk of their income as savings and put it into superannuation, they actually only pay 15% tax instead of the 32% tax they're currently paying. Okay, so here is my First Home Super Saver Scheme calculator. Now, if you would like a copy of this calculator along with the cheat sheet, you can get a copy of it free by just clicking on the link in the description below. Now, let's look at Sam's income here. Let's say Sam is earning $65,000 a year. He's not using the scheme at the moment, so his taxable income is $65,000, which means he's going to pay about $11,588 between his income tax and Medicare. Now, let's just say that Sam Sam goes, oh, okay, let's use this scheme. He's got $65,000 income. He puts $15,000 into his super fund as a concessional contribution. That means his taxable income drops from $65,000 down to $50,000, which means that the tax on $50,000 is just $6,788. So I'm hoping you can see there's a significant difference between $11,588 and $6,788. And what we've got to take into account, though, is that when you make a concessional contribution to your super fund, there is a thing called contributions tax, which is 15% of whatever you contribute. So that means that Sam's going to have to pay $2,250 that comes from this $15,000. That is a tax that goes to the government. Okay, so what this means is that once we've factored in the contributions tax, what tax Sam pays in tax is $9,038, which means that he is saving $2,550 in tax. $2,550 that he gets to keep. So between him and Bree, if we looked at this situation and go, well, if Bree has the same kind of situation, and she does, then between them, they're actually going to save about $5,100 in tax. So that's $5,100 a year that they get to keep that they wouldn't have otherwise. Now, I'm hoping that this sounds pretty good to you so far, but there's one more thing that I need to share with you, and that is if you are a higher income earner, and by higher income, I mean earning $250,000 or more a year. If you're in that bracket, then it's quite likely that you are going to have additional taxes on concessional contributions that you make to superannuation. And this may well negate the benefits of using the First Home Super Saver Scheme. So can I encourage you, if you're in this category, just check it out with your accountant first. So who's eligible for the First Home Super Saver Scheme? Well, the good news is it is very open. You just need to be 18 years or older. You need to be a first home buyer in Australia. So this needs to be the first time you bought property in Australia. It does not matter if you own property overseas. And you need to plan to live in it for at least 6 months of the first 12 months. And of course, you need to have an active super fund. So how does this practically work? Well, I think you will be pleasantly surprised at just how easy this is. The first step in the process is to make a voluntary contribution to your super fund. There are 2 ways to do this. The easiest way is simply just to speak to your employer and say, hey employer, can I please start salary sacrificing $500 a month or whatever number you choose from my pay into my super fund? And they will take $500 out of your pre-tax salary and put it into the super fund for you. The second way to do this is that you could just make a transfer directly from your bank account into your superannuation. If you're not sure how to do that, just ring up your super fund. They will either give you BPay details or bank transfer details so that you can transfer the money in just as you would transferring money to any other bank account. So that's the 2 ways to do it, and that is our first step. Make a voluntary contribution to super. The second thing you need to do then is claim a tax deduction on that. Now, because we need to be putting this money in pre-tax as a concessional contribution. Now, if your employer is salary sacrificing for you, that is all already done. You don't need to worry about it. But if you're making a contribution yourself into superannuation, then you need to fill in a form from your super fund called a Notice of Intent to Claim. You fill that in, very easy to fill in. It basically says, here's the contributions I made this year and I want to claim a tax deduction. I tick that box, I want to claim a tax deduction, and then send it off to your super fund. And they will then say to the ATO, hey, this is all pre-tax money. So that's step number 2. Step number 3 is once you are ready to buy a home, you can then apply to the ATO for a release of contributions. I'll put a link, or there is a link in the cheat sheet for you for that form. Reply for a release of contributions, so they can say to the ATO, hey, I'm ready to take my money out. The ATO can then do some calculations of, well, how much is that? They will then give you a form that you can give to your superannuation fund, and then the superannuation fund can release the money to you, and you can go and buy a home. So that is the entire process. Please don't overcomplicate it. Now, as with all good things, there are some limitations, and the first limitation is that in any 1 year, the maximum you can put into the First Home Super Saver Scheme is $15,000, and over your lifetime, the maximum is $50,000. That's for an individual. So if you're a couple, you've both got a bite at the $50,000 or the $15,000 per year, but as an individual, $15,000 a year and $50,000 lifetime. Now, there's one other thing that we need to factor in here, and that is the concessional contribution cap. And each year, the maximum that can be put into your super fund and claim a tax deduction is $30,000. And this includes your employer contributions as well. So if your employer is putting $18,000 into superannuation on your behalf, then that only leaves $12,000 for you to contribute to the scheme. Okay, so let's have a look at this in more detail using my spreadsheet again. The maximum concessional contribution that can be made into your superannuation fund is $30,000. Now that's for the 25-26 financial year and the 26-27 financial year. And this maximum $30,000 contribution includes what your employer is putting into superannuation for you. So if we come back to Sam's example, so look at Sam, who is earning $65,000 a year. Let's assume that his employer is putting in the 12% super guarantee for him. That would mean his employer is putting in $7,800, which leaves Sam with the capacity of $22,200 of extra contributions that he could make pre-tax into his super fund. However, if you remember, the maximum you contribute in any 1 year to the First Home Super Saver Scheme is $15,000. So Sam certainly has the capacity to contribute $15,000. However, let's just say Sam earned $150,000. Okay, if we look at that scenario, we can see here that 12% of $150,000 is $18,000 going in from his employer, which means that he only has a capacity of $12,000 to put into superannuation. So it's really important that you understand, well, how much is my employer putting in for me? So a good way to do this is you can just look at your pay slip, and it typically tells you year to date how much has been put into super for you. Or you can have a look at your the MyGov account. If your MyGov account is connected to the ATO, in there it will be able to tell you how much has been contributed for you so far this financial year. So make sure you're not exceeding your concessional contribution cap. So let's have a look at some of the common mistakes I see people making, mistakes that you want to avoid. And the first one is exceeding those concessional contributions caps I've just talked about, because what's going to happen is you're going to get whacked with tax on anything over and above that $30,000. So please make sure you don't exceed your contributions caps. Then poor timing. This is a big one. Getting too excited, pulling our money out too early, and then finding that either the house we thought we were going to buy falls through, or we just can't find the right house, and that starts to put pressure on us. And then you've got about 12 months from the time you pull the money out to when you need to have bought your first home before you either have to put your money back into super or you do get hit with the extra tax again. So try and get the timing right where possible. The third one is losing sight of the big picture, that ultimately your superannuation is for your retirement savings. So we don't want to be pulling money out if we're approaching retirement, and we need that money to live on in retirement. The fourth one is that with high income earners, as I pointed out before, if you're earning more than $250,000 a year, there is an additional tax over and above that contributions tax I was talking about before. That could mean that using this scheme is far less effective for you. Okay, so let's finish up with a really quick case study of a young lady who came to see me about 6 months ago. Her name is Sarah. Sarah's 24 and she is the daughter of one of my friends. Sarah's been out of uni for 3 years. She is working in the public service, earning $70,000 a year, and she is desperate to move out of home. And between you and I, mum and dad are pretty excited about it too. But she is at $70,000. She is in the 30% tax bracket. Now, this is the plan that we laid out for Sarah. Year number one, she contributes $15,000 of her salary into her super fund, which means that after we factored in contributions tax, she's going to save herself about $2,250. In year 2, same deal. She puts $15,000 into superannuation via salary sacrifice with her employer and saves herself $2,250. And in year 3, she contributes $10,000 into superannuation. And I honestly cannot remember why we didn't make that more. But in year 3, she puts $10,000 into superannuation and she will save herself about $1,500 after contributions tax. And so that's extra money an extra $6,000 that she gets to keep because she's doing things this way. Now, what this means is that her total contributions into her super fund are $40,000. The income tax that she would save is actually $12,000. So if we take 30% because it's all pre-tax, 30% of $40,000 is $12,000 that she saved. But unfortunately, there is the 15% contributions tax on money you're putting into superannuation. So that's $6,000, which means that after contributions tax, her contribution that she gets to keep in her super fund is $34,000. Now, it's important to understand here too that the earnings, at the time we calculated this, the earnings on this fund, so the government deems it, it gives it an interest rate, was 7%, which means that she will earn $2,800 on this money, which gives her a deposit to be released of $36,800. So she saved herself $6,000, and there is no way in the world she could have earned 7% without any risk in a high interest savings account outside of the super fund. So it's a double win there for her, tax savings and a higher rate of return, and she gets $36,800 that she can't touch because it's been in a super fund and she can only use it for a house deposit. So it's been will be a really good way for her to save money for her house deposit. So I'm hoping that you can see that the First Home Super Saver Scheme is a legitimate way to put thousands of dollars back into your pocket. Thousands of dollars that you would have otherwise paid in tax. Now, will it get you all the way to your home deposit? Probably not. But when you're facing a $100,000 deposit, every dollar you can save is a win. And if the government is willing to chip in and help you save towards your first home deposit, then you would be mad not to take advantage of it. Now, just a reminder, if you would like a free copy of my First Home Super Saver calculator and cheat sheet, then check out the description below. And please remember, it is the little habits and strategies that you put in place today that can literally make $1 million difference to your future.